In this episode, my guest, Dr. Joe from ActivMend, talks about her groundbreaking solution for ligament, tendon, and muscle recovery in the form of a patch. This chiropractor turned product entrepreneur discusses the three stages of tendon injuries, going from reactive, disrepair, and degenerative, and the importance of catching this early on for proper healing, and thus avoiding becoming a chronic issue. The best part about it, Dr. Joe gives some testimonials with pictures if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, and can see some of the miraculous healing properties that her patches have had, as no one else has anything like this on the market as of now. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Dr. Joe, thank you so much for coming on my show. As my audience always knows, we like to get to know a guest. What have you been doing with your career, where you are now with your product ActivMend? Tell us your story, and then we can dive into some of the other issues with tendons, all the different chronic pains we all have. And this is perfect because my over 40 audience is chock full of them, especially me. So I'll let you take it away.
So I have a really odd background. I started out as an engineer. I have 3 engineering degrees. And then what one always does after one has been an expert in space satellites, one decides to quit their director of engineering job and become a chiropractor,
There we go.
which everyone does, right?
100%.
Automatic. That totally makes sense. Long story. Basically, child got sick, that whole thing. And decided I really wanted to align myself with the idea of helping people. So get a chiropractic degree, it works. So today we're going to talk about sprains and strains. And I've been researching. One of the beautiful things about being an engineer is I approach things very scientifically. I've been researching healing specifically from sprains and for about 20 years. And through this research, I've discovered a way that you can amplify your body's response so that, and I'm going to make a bold claim here, that have you ever sprained your ankle?
Oh, yeah. That
Okay.
happened
Walked
around
around it
32 in flag football, and I did it. Once it happens once, it starts happening multiple times.
100%. And how long were you on crutches?
That was, probably like 3 months.
You were on crutches for 3 months?
Well, maybe not the whole time, but I had them if I needed them type thing. But it was a
Well,
really nasty roll. It probably should have just broke. It would have been better, they were saying.
okay. Imagine I'm giving you a bold claim, which I will back up, that you'll be off crutches in a week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sign me up.
Totally. Okay. And I'm one of those people that I really dislike products where they're like, it solves everything. This doesn't solve everything. It addresses ligament, tendons, and muscles, sprains and strains. If you have arthritis, it's not going to work on that. So let's start by talking. So when you sprain something or strain, it's typically ligament, tendon, and muscles.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the most studied one is tendons. Those are the most studied of any of the 3 of them. And so I'm going to go through information from a recent British medical journal about how one heals when one hurts one's tendon. There's really 3 stages. The first is a reactive stage. That's what you had when you sprained your ankle. Really swollen, it hurts to move, etc. Okay. That is typically 100% reversible. However, if you let it go on, and this mostly people notice like with tennis elbow and rotator cuff problems, if you keep it going and you don't heal it, so tendons are made of type 1 collagen, and you will start noticing degradation in the collagen fibers. So you want to get that fixed. And when you're in stage 1, you do not want to mess with it. You don't want to stress it if you have pain. And pain without painkillers. Your body's telling you, don't do this.
Yeah.
And if you keep going back and doing stuff and masking it by pain, what ends up happening is you start getting into the second stage, the disrepair stage. Now, let's say that you have a long-standing problem and you keep working with it, you never repair it. You will eventually get into the degenerative stage where you have permanent collagen degradation. There's body essentially says, okay, I give up. I'm just going to let it be. And it's all degraded and it's no longer trying to inflame, because inflammation is actually the healing process that your body naturally does.
Yeah.
When you get to that stage, the only thing you can do pretty much is there's a technique where people will irritate it by putting a needle in it.
Reactivating, getting some blood flow back in the area. Some doctors use PRP shots, all that kind
Exactly. That's the only way you can fix it when it's in the degenerative stage. The problem is because the symptoms between stage 2 and stage 3 are virtually identical. So you could tell your doctor, I've got this problem. He doesn't know which stage it is. And even with imaging, it's really hard to see on an MRI. Stage 2, the disrepair stage, looks really pretty similar to the degenerative stage. As I mentioned before we're talking, you can cut their arm off, do a histological look at the thing, but not having an arm is not a good.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. So when you're in your 40s or post 40s, like when you're 12, you're probably in stage one. When you're 90 and you've had a problem for many years, you're probably in stage three. Where you are in the middle, you don't really know.
Yeah.
So there's a couple points to remember. One, when you're in stage one, make sure you fully heal. Don't use it if it hurts. And that's talking about if it hurts in the absence of any painkillers. If you're in stage two, you need to really make sure you fully heal. Again, stay off of it. Make sure there's lots of things, PT, et cetera, that can help. Make sure you go through that. And the other thing that I would recommend your audience not do is steroid injections. Steroids work against the body. I'm a firm believer that your body is the most effective way of healing, and steroids will more likely bring you into the degenerative third stage.
Yeah. For my particular situation back when I was 32 on a flag football team, got to that age where it never would have happened earlier than that, but
100%.
didn't even do a hard cut, just did like a post during practice and rolled that ankle so bad. That was the first time I've ever done it. But at my age at that time, I'm a guy, I can't let my team down. I went through the protocols and everything, did some physical therapy, but really rushed to get back on that field to get back in that sport, which was probably a terrible idea because it eventually just led to more rolled ankles. Then I really had to take time off. So I don't even know if I got out of stage one, to tell you the truth, but it's like a decade later now. I feels strong, but still, it just feels thicker than the other side. I definitely can't bend it the same as the other side. So in my mind, I have scar tissue or something in there. I don't know if it has anything to do with not enough collagen, but that's where I'm at. So it's just proof to tell you that if you don't take care of it, this is what's going to happen.
And basically, don't do that.
Yeah.
The simple answer is don't do that, because you just talked about what ends up happening if you don't take care of it over time. And it's really good to think about it because, in fact, when you think about the stage three degenerative stage, people can think of it like scar tissues. Once scar tissue's there, you're not going to really change it. So let's talk about how you avoid doing that. Okay. So as I mentioned, nature is the best healer. Nature's been defining how we heal things from the time we've been amoebas, animals, etc. And it is the best healer. You want to work with something that amplifies the body, not something that suppresses the body. And so, for instance, there's super healers out there. I mostly run across them because we work with college football teams, and there'll be maybe one or two kids every year that just recover way faster than everybody else. And that's because they amplify their response. So there's remedies that will help you, us muggles, people that don't have the super healing availability, help us become more like a super healer. So I didn't ask you before this. Have you ever used arnica?
Yeah.
Okay. So arnica is one of the main ingredients, and arnica is for muscles and bruising. Okay. So all arnica does is it signals your body that you have a bigger problem than you really do and amplifies the response. So for instance, let's say that you run into the table. You're going to get a little bruise. You put an arnica patch on there and it signals your body that you just got hit by a baseball bat, and it just amplifies the response.
Okay. So it's not taking away the inflammation that we need. It's
No.
just your body's doing it faster. That's why inflammation is going down, because it's taking care of it.
Absolutely. And I'm a strong believer that's the only way you heal.
Yeah.
That is the best way. It's the way you permanently heal. And actually, you were talking before about the bruising study that you saw. That result was actually a surprise. I expected the bruising to be worse at the very beginning, so it was deeper, and then it just resolved faster. And the only thing I can guess, it turns out, this is probably too much information, but humans are the only ones that bruise. Animals don't. They have hematomas due to cutting a blood vessel open, but if just even a pig who's relatively fair, you hit a pig, they don't bruise. And my guess, and this is a guess, I try and be very clear when I don't know, is that for some reason, the darkening of the skin helps the healing process. But if you heal it so fast, you don't need the darkening of the skin. That's all I can guess, because it was a surprise result for me. I didn't expect it.
Wow. So
So-
animals got something else going on in them, that they're healing faster than us, or?
No, I think it's because of the thinness of our skin.
Yeah, there we go.
I think it's that there must be something where, and I have no idea, that for some reason, sunlight or something must affect whatever's below the skin, and all the rest of the animals either have fur or really thick skin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, completely guessing, don't really know. But I think it's one of those things like, oh, really? I didn't know they did bruise until I got into this. I had no idea. So We talked about muscles and we talked about bruising, soft tissue. You want something for ligaments and you want something for tendons. There's three main remedies for that. Most people won't know them: Russ Tox, Ruta, and Ledum. So what you want is at least those four remedies, because those are the remedies that will amplify the response when you sprain your ankle or hurt your rotator cuff.
Hmm.
Okay.
And what are those that you just mentioned? I've never even
They're
heard
all
of them.
flowers,
Oh,
and they're all naturally derived flowers. There's a process called succussion that causes something called acid nanostructures that become the active ingredient. However, they're all starting with natural things that are flowers.
mm,
So, and they're all very safe.
okay.
Okay. So we know the remedies. Then I spent the last 20 years looking at how do you maximize the effectiveness of these four remedies? And there's four main things. You want it topical. This probably is obvious. You want it at the location of the injury. You want high potency. You want to be delivering continuously over time, at least 24 hours. And then you want a large area. Okay. So what did I do with that? So actually in the history, what I found was I looked for something out there that existed like this. I was a chiropractor. I just wanted something for my patients and I couldn't find it. I didn't really understand why, but we mentioned the Hassa nanostructures, and it turns out that the way you traditionally make the arnica gel that you've already had, it's really low potency. It's not
Hmm.
something a practitioner would use typically. But I looked all over the world and you couldn't find it. And it turns out because of the Hassa nanostructures, which are the active component of arnica and others, you cannot make it in the traditional ways. You have to actually change it, the process of making it, if you want to make a patch. So what we did was we made this lovely little product. I'm showing it for those that can see. It's called ActivMend, and it comes in just a patch like this. You can see it in my hand. And what you do is just lays on the skin like that. And you go off and wrap it with an ace bandage, but you wear it continuously. So it's the only product in the world that incorporates all four of these. If you use an arnica gel, do you use arnica gel? So this is 2,000 times the potency of any arnica gel. So super high potency. It's a patch form. It applies directly to location. And then equally important, this will apply for a full 24 hours. And that's super important. Okay. So I made some pretty bold claims. How
Hmm.
people have come on your show and said, yeah, I can get you off crutches and you'll be walking without crutches in a week.
None.
Assuming it's not very common.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other product. So I'm going to start by showing one of the things is if you look at our social media and or our website, for those of you that are just listening, you can see these on our website. We have pictures of wonderful photographs showing what I'm going to be sharing with the audience that can see. So this is actually a case where a man sprains his ankle. He applies it 24 hours afterwards. On the left, you can see a hugely swollen ankle. What you see on the right is 24 hours later.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
not what it's
isn't,
supposed to look like.
it's not supposed to. So it turns out one of the reasons I have this is that his wife's a physical therapist. And she's like, yeah, it went down by more than 50%. And by the way, we have audio recordings of this on our social media, so you can always see what she talked about. And she's a physical therapist. So she sees people typically like 2 or 3 weeks to do physical therapy on ankle sprains. And she's like, within 24 hours, he looks like my patients look when they come in at 2 or 3 weeks because of the amount of mobility that he had and the amount of swelling that he had. He actually never used crutches. It was down to normal, I believe, within 4 days.
Okay.
And I didn't see this.
So that's one thing is swelling, but pain. Mine, that was month plus residual chronic pain. How fast in this example was pain gone that they could walk on it?
Well, he never used crutches. I actually have a photo of him walking right out within 24 hours. Still painful. I'm not crazy. In our case, the pain follows the swelling. When the swelling goes down, it'll become pain-free. I don't know when he was completely pain-free, but numerous people are able to walk, maybe with some tenderness, I would say.
Yeah,
Within a week.
I'll take that over painful that was.
Yeah. So with us, we don't solve the pain by masking it. We solve the pain by having you heal enough so you are better. Going back to our original discussion, I don't believe in using painkillers except for in rare cases.
Yeah,
Have you ever known anybody that ruptured an ACL?
probably, but I can't really remember exactly if it's an MCL, ACL. There's so many different
Yeah,
injuries in the knee.
basically the ACL's in your knee, and it's the thing that all the football players sprain and then they are out for the season.
Hmm.
This is 24 hours after an ACL rupture. And they actually swell up more than ankles typically. Can you even tell which one's blown? I can. It turns out that this right one is blown, or the one on people's left and they look at it.
Yeah.
So that's super unusual. So when I say that this is normal, and I will tell you that I have never seen a stage 1 ankle sprain, lateral ankle sprain. Turns out we can't do high ankle sprains. It's a different issue. But I've never seen a lateral ankle sprain that hasn't responded equivalently. So let me give you some more data points. I tend to be a bit of a skeptic. So we did a clinical study and it was published. 52% of the patients recovered 7 days fast. We talked about the man rotator cuff problems. We see that all the time in customers and have had rotator cuff problems for ages. We do a 5-day continuous treatment and they go from, there's actually a podcast which will come out in December where the podcaster actually said, hey, I got a shoulder problem. It's been there for 3 weeks. It was done.
Wow.
And
Yeah. You just missed my slap tear.
you know what, though? I'm not 100% sure we would have helped. Again, I want to be super honest. I would have tried it for sure.
Yeah.
But the type tissue for a slap tear tends to be cartilage. And I know we cannot affect cartilage in the joint. So there's different types of cartilage. We can help meniscus tears. But if you've got like a cartilage in your knee that's due to degeneration, we can't. So I would try it, but it's one of those things where I don't know what type of cartilage it is, and I don't have enough experience knowing what cartilage we can do and what we don't. So I would say try it, but I'm not sure I would have been able to help it. So let me give you some of the amazing things that we've done. Here we have a natural product where everybody's super skeptical about, and Allergan, who is a big pharma company, they make Botox, to license it from us. After doing diligence and talking Western medical doctors that are skeptical, for instance, 4 past presidents of the American Society of Dermatological Surgeons all publicly said, no, this is the best product we've ever seen. You'll see on our website, we've got pro athletes, we've got TCU uses it, college athletes. And the bottom line is, I know I'm telling people something that they're like, this is not believable. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. And my answer is, try it. But we have a super liberal, like I literally have somebody get it and say, I don't like, I think she said, I'm not going to use it because I decided to get surgery. Fine. We'll reimburse you. We don't care. Our return rate is so low. We just don't care.
Yeah. So you mentioned the different tissues that it doesn't work. What are the main tissues that it works on? Muscle,
ligaments, and tendons. Those are what you typically see sprain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can do
all
both.
3 of those.
So
Problem is that a
cartilage.
labrum tear is a collagen. So I know we can do, there's subtleties. Like I've seen it work multiple times on bursitis.
Okay.
So the one collagen I know it works on is it'll work on when you have a meniscus tear. I've seen that multiple times, but I don't know if a slap tear is similar to meniscus tear.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about stage 3 real quick, because I forgot to mention that. So what you do is you needle it. Let's say you've got a rotator cuff, you needle it to irritate it to bring it back into stage 1. As you mentioned, yes, you should combine that with either stem cells, of course, which is typically identified as PRP, and or ActivMend. I would actually do both personally.
Yeah, why not?
And so let's jump back to things it does and things it doesn't. Because I tend to believe people that know what they do well and are careful on what they don't. So there's something called a high ankle sprain, which is where you have an issue between your tibia and fibula. We don't do anything on high ankle sprains. It doesn't affect shin splints, but I'm guessing that's more similar to that joint, which is called a sistrum joint.
Okay.
And so we don't do anything on that. And as long as you're not in stage 3, almost everything that's related to tendon ligaments, we do. I will say this, that if it doesn't work, you're probably in stage 3.
So stage 3 is where you need to do the kneeling or PRP or whatever to get it to go back to 1. And now this product can help if they're using stem cells or whatnot.
Yeah. So that's anything else that you have questions on?
So we got stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 is far gone. We got to get back to stage 1. I want to know the list of everything, but let's use me for an example. So my ankle's fine, but I guess I'll know in time when I get older if there's something chronically getting worse and degenerative that, okay, maybe I can do the needling, get it back and start using the product. My current other issue is I have the L5-S1 herniated disc. I've had surgery twice, and that disc is just broken, crushed, everything. All my rehab and all the stuff that I do is part of my routine of healed my body up to what I say like 98%, but it is still there. And funny, I'm currently using those LifeWave patches to see if anything can happen with that. Can your product do anything for that? There's two tissues, the disc itself, which is now broken, ruptured, probably scarred over, hopefully now. And then I'm missing the gel center of the disc. Do you know if the ActivMend can help with either one of those, or I'm already in stage 3 anyways?
Yeah, so I love this because I try very hard to be super accurate. So no, we can't affect a herniated disc directly. So actually, a lot of times I would tell people don't use it on back. We actually probably affect at least 60% of the cases where somebody's worked on a back. But I know there's two cases we can't fix. We can't fix a herniated disc, and we also can't affect arthritis in the back. And of
Hmm.
course, nobody knows typically what they've got. However, what's interesting about herniated disc, they did a study where they went and looked at normal people and they found that about a third of the population have herniated discs that have no pain. And what they've determined is a combination of the herniated disc and getting swelling and an acidic situation in the area. So I would try it because what you end up having, and this is true actually in ankle breaks as well, where you have your herniated disc that pushes the tissue around out and causes irritation.
Hmm.
If the irritation is due to specifically the herniated disc, I can't help that if the pain's coming from the herniated disc. But if it's actually from the tissue being irritated because it's moved out,
Yes, that's usually
I
what it
can
is
help
too.
that piece.
Okay.
So I'm very cautious on back pain because I know I cannot fix all of it. It's one of those things where try it and figure it out. And I will only know at that point.
Yeah. But for
So
me, that's huge is everything's going great. Maybe structurally it's not as strong as it could be, but I've learned a system, routine, and rehab that holds it there. But that's not to say that I have some extra fluid or the disc itself may protrude one day and cause new irritation that can be handled because that's a brand new irritation that can be calmed down, taken care of. And that'd be huge for me. So
yeah. Well, we'll try it and then you get to report back. And I
yeah.
will say that I know we can do ligament, tendon, muscle, sprains, strains, everything. Herniated disc, I typically tell people no. And I tell people that they got arthritis anywhere, we're not
Yeah.
going to really affect that because that's
Yeah,
not the
arthritis is
routine.
this whole new other world. I know that.
Yeah,
Nerve pain and
absolutely.
everything. Well, let's finish off, Dr. Joe. Let's give the audience just all the simple ones. What can they use this product for themselves or family? Obviously, we talked about low ankle sprains, not high ankle sprains, meniscus, go up the body. What else can we?
Okay. So virtually anytime you sprain something
Okay.
where you trip over something, you kick yourself, something like that, it's going to work. Let's say that I've kicked my toe more than once and it
Yeah.
hurts. So you put it on that. Ankles, plantar fasciitis. Plantar fasciitis is a maybe. If it's in stage 1, yes. If it's in stage 3, no. Completely depends. And so you'll find it will work with runners because they're typically in stage 1, but somebody that's is like 60 years old and has plantar fasciitis, it's probably stage 3.
Okay.
Ankle sprains, very much so. With respect to yours, I would actually, even though you're asymptomatic, meaning you don't have symptoms, I'd put it on there. You might
Yeah.
as well. And I would put it on there just to heal up, which if it can, because it won't hurt. So that's a lovely thing. Let's talk about calves. Like, oh, muscle strains. Oh my God, I love this stuff for muscle
Okay.
strain. You pull a calf muscle or something.
Bite any of this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you go up to your knees. So again, arthritis, no. However, ligament, ACL, medial,
Meniscus.
all of those, meniscus, all it's lovely. Again, the muscles in your leg, quad strains all over, hips. Just depends on like if you've got problems where you pull the muscle and your gluteus or something like that, it's fine. Back's iffy. It depends what the source is. But if it's a muscle strain for sure, if it's a herniated disc or something like that, it's a maybe. And then the shoulders, a lot of customers use it for shoulder problems, mainly assuming a lot of them are in stage 2, it'll heal it up. We've had patients, like I can think of a golfer who used it on his tennis elbow and it was a stage 3 tennis elbow. They did the needling. They used PRP. This is one case, so I don't want to make a
Hmm.
decision on this. Let me be clear. He did PRP and it didn't heal up. And then about 3 weeks later, we actually have a video of him talking about this. About 3 weeks later, he went from not being able to, he's like shaking somebody's hand would bring me to my knees. It was that painful. He put this on within a week. He's better. And even
Wow.
though he'd been doing PRP to start with. So again, I don't have a lot of cases like this. So that's one of the few ones. But again, it would not have worked on his tendinosis because it was in stage 3,
Yep.
but it was after you initiated it. And I tend to tell people more about what it doesn't work on because
Yeah.
there's virtually every ligament, every sprain or strain, all the joints that you have, all the muscles in your body. I don't expect it to work on carpal tunnel because
There
I
we
think that that's probably a stage 3 problem.
Something with the myelin sheath.
Yeah.
Something damage on that that's like irreversible.
Yeah. So again, I hope your audience gets that I'm not saying this works on everything and then it's more of those things where you know what it is. Oh, you know what this stuff is lovely for? Black eyes.
Oh,
Yeah. There's a photo where a kid flips on a trampoline. So swelling is swelling, right?
yeah.
So the swelling of a black eye is similar to swelling of ankles. A teenager flips on a trampoline, lands so hard that he gets 4 stitches right below his eyebrow. Now, what would you expect him to look 3 days later like if you hit a trampoline so hard on the bar?
Someone got beat up.
Yeah, swollen shut would have been what I would
Oh,
expect.
yeah. Nothing.
He didn't swell at all.
Wow.
Had no discoloration because he got the patches on like right away.
Gotcha. So the things that I'm thinking of what's requires surgery, like hip, that's because all the cartilage is just so degenerated. There's nothing we can do with that. You got to go
We're
that
not going to
route.
affect that. Yep. But it's really good to use after surgery.
Yeah.
So if you had like
Swelling because of all.
yeah, it's useful on patients once they've had the back surgery. It's useful if you've got hip surgery, but it's not going to keep you from having it. It's not going to fix it to begin with.
Gotcha. And are these patches, I'm looking at the size of it on the guy's arm there in your background.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're getting a little shiner on your eye and you're worried about swelling, can you just cut a strip that will just perfectly fit that, just like you'd think all
Yeah,
those products?
that's exactly. And you can put it above and below because it'll travel a little bit.
Perfect,
So
yeah.
in this case, is the eye, it was put above and below. Yeah. Also, if you sprain your ankle, I would completely cover the
I
ankle.
would. I don't want to take
Yeah.
the chance.
But not because you've got a short period of time. And the other thing is the sooner you apply it, the better. And use a compression like a sleeve if you ever do put it on because it'll help.
Still follow the icing protocols and all that, or we don't need it now?
Well, A, you don't need it, but also the top doctors in the world realize that blood flow is important
Yeah.
and they don't ice anymore.
I mean, every physical therapist I talk to still say just to go between the two. That's what I've.
Yeah, learned this from when we were little, right? So things like that take a long time. But for instance, we worked with the University of Illinois and I trust this athletic trainer and he's like, I don't use ice anymore.
Yeah. I personally, for the Eastern medicine, at least that's where I first heard of it. Just use heat, let that blood flow get there. That's what I've always done.
And so arnicas also, we didn't talk about it, been reported to increase blood flow. So that's one of the ways that it actually works.
Yeah.
And what I will say is we reduce the swelling far more than ice. So you can follow the process, which is get the darn stuff on right away. You probably won't need to use either heat or ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Joe, how do we find this product if we want to do a little bit more research? Do you have websites, social media? You mentioned you had some good testimonials on there. How does my audience get a hold of you? I don't suspect it's at Walgreens for everybody right now yet.
No, it's not a Walgreens. We sell it predominantly on Amazon and on through our website. So the website is ActivMend and it's active without an E, CTIVMEND.com. And then our social media handle is the same. And so those are great ways. And I always tell people, if you want to get a hold of me, reach out to our support group. When I was a chiropractor, and even as a user, I always hated it when some medicine doc would say, yes, I can fix that when they can't. And so I've always been super careful to be really straightforward on what it can do and be cautious more than anything. But if I'm not sure it's going to work, I'll say no, but try it. And so if you reach out to me and I don't think it'll work, I'll tell you that. And I'll tell you the best thing I know to fix it.
Yeah, I know people appreciate that when someone's got a product or a service or something, letting up front versus getting the surprises later. So I know all about that. Just good business practice. So very cool. Definitely my audience knows I'll put all those links in the show notes too. So they're just easy clickable, but it just sounds like a no-brainer to, like you said, just try it, see for yourself. Just get a pack. I've got my medicine cabinet upstairs and just to be able to have something like that, because my 7-year-old daughter has almost rolled her ankles. She's banged her body up. So I'm like, I need stuff like this, just not even for myself.
It's great for families. A ton of kids use it. If you've got athletic children, it's a must have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Joe, for coming on my show, and we'll let the audience check you out on social media and we'll see where ActivMend goes from there.
Great. And thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.